Eleanor Vance, a 38-year-old architect from Seattle, Washington, had always been the silent backbone of her family. For years, she had carried their financial burdens, from her brother Mark's failed business ventures to her sister Sarah's luxurious lifestyle in Miami, Florida. Eleanor's parents, George and Martha Vance, had long cultivated an image of genteel poverty, subtly pressuring Eleanor to subsidize their comfortable retirement in a charming, but costly, Victorian home in Portland, Oregon. She was their successful daughter, the one who understood the importance of family support. The breaking point arrived during a seemingly celebratory event. A grand anniversary dinner for George and Martha at the opulent Fairmont Olympic Hotel in Seattle. Eleanor had meticulously planned and secretly funded the entire affair, hoping to finally earn genuine appreciation from her family. As champagne flowed and guests mingled, George, emboldened by several drinks and the admiring glances of distant relatives, raised a toast. Instead of acknowledging Eleanor's efforts, he launched into a condescending speech about her generosity and charitable spirit, implying she was merely compensating for her lack of a traditional family life. Then, with a theatrical sigh, he referred to her as their benevolent benefactor, a term that stung with its thinly veiled insult, suggesting she was a lonely figure who bought her way into their lives. The room, filled with curious whispers, felt like it was closing in on Eleanor. Her heart pounded, but her face remained as still as stone. She felt as if every eye was judging her, every whisper eroding her self-respect. This humiliation was not just words from George's mouth. It was the culmination of years of neglect, exploitation, and the trivialization of her sacrifices. Eleanor silently vowed that this night would be the final chapter of their relationship. What her family didn't know was that Eleanor, through her successful architectural firm, Vance Designs LLC, had not only paid for the entire banquet, but also for Mark's recent business bailouts and Sarah's lavish European honeymoon. She had even been secretly covering the mortgage payments on her parents' Portland home for the past 5 years. As George continued his patronizing monologue, Eleanor, her face a mask of calm, subtly activated a prearranged display on the hotel's large screen. It began to scroll through a discreet, yet undeniable, ledger of payments from Vance Designs LLC to various vendors for the event, including the hotel, the catering, and even the florist. Then, it displayed the wire transfers to Mark's struggling company and the travel agency for Sarah's honeymoon. A hush fell over the room as the guests, and more importantly, her family, watched the undeniable evidence of Eleanor's true financial involvement. George's face turned pale, Martha covered her face with her hands, and Mark and Sarah stared at each other in a mixture of disbelief and anger. Eleanor felt a strange peace, as if years of burden had been lifted from her shoulders. This silent revelation was more powerful than 1,000 words. It was her revenge, her reclamation of honor, and the first step towards her freedom. The morning after that disastrous dinner, Eleanor, with steely resolve, began to dismantle her family's financial scaffolding. She immediately cancelled the recurring payments to Mark's business, revoked the credit cards she had provided to Sarah, and most significantly, informed her parents that the mortgage payments on their Portland home would cease at the end of the month. When her parents, George and Martha, called, their voices laced with outrage and disbelief, Eleanor calmly explained that her benevolent benefactor days were over. They accused her of being dramatic and ungrateful, but Eleanor remained firm. She had already initiated the process of reclaiming the funds she had invested in Mark's business, citing breach of contract and financial mismanagement. She knew it would be a difficult path, but she was ready. Her lawyers assured her that her case was very strong. She had compiled a detailed list of all her financial transactions with each family member, saving every receipt, every bank statement, and every email. These documents were her shield and sword. She was no longer willing to be exploited by them. The Vance family, stunned by the sudden cutoff of financial support, decided to challenge Eleanor legally. They believed Eleanor was withholding funds that were rightfully theirs, especially concerning the Portland home. They filed a lawsuit, hoping Eleanor would back down under pressure and concede to their demands. They assumed Eleanor would never want to publicly dishonor the family, but they were wrong. Eleanor would not back down this time. She consulted with her lawyers and filed a countersuit. The legal battle began at the Multnomah County Courthouse in Portland. It was not just a fight for money. It was a fight for justice and self-respect. In court, the Vance family's lawyers tried to portray Eleanor as a selfish and heartless individual who had abandoned her own family. They claimed Eleanor had promised to financially assist her brother and sister, and that paying her parents' mortgage was her moral duty. They attempted to present emotional arguments, but Eleanor's lawyers were prepared. Eleanor's lawyers meticulously presented all the evidence. They showed detailed records of every payment made from Vance Designs LLC. They presented Mark's business account statements, clearly showing how Eleanor's money had been squandered. They showed Sarah's credit card bills, providing proof of extravagant purchases. And most importantly, they presented all the bank statements for the Portland home's mortgage payments, which clearly indicated that Eleanor was the sole person consistently making those payments. Eleanor herself testified in court. She calmly and firmly recounted her life story, detailing how she had carried her family's financial burdens since childhood, how her sacrifices had been trivialized, and how she had been publicly humiliated. Every word she spoke was truthful and poignant. The judge, who had listened attentively to all the evidence and testimonies, recognized a clear pattern of exploitation. He understood that Eleanor had merely been used by her family. His verdict was clear and decisive. The judge ruled that the Vance family must reimburse Eleanor for the misused funds. This included money invested in Mark's business, and funds spent on Sarah's extravagant lifestyle. It was a significant financial victory for Eleanor, but the most crucial part concerned the Portland home. The judge ruled that since Eleanor was the only person consistently making the mortgage payments, the title to the house would be legally transferred to her name. This was an unexpected triumph that brought Eleanor complete independence from her family. Furthermore, the judge issued a restraining order against George and Martha, prohibiting them from contacting Eleanor. This was vital for Eleanor's peace of mind. She would no longer be subjected to their accusations, their blackmail, and their exploitation. As Eleanor walked out of the courtroom, she felt a profound sense of relief. Years of burden seemed to lift from her shoulders. She smiled at her lawyers. It had been the toughest battle of her life, but she had won. She had not just fought for money or a house, she had fought for her self-respect and her future.